Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. I want to cover today's agenda. A few things that we're going to be going through. First of all, new features. We have an exciting, sort of our marquee feature here is role assignments. And Blake's going to lead us through that along with the members field that kind of plays in conjunction with the role assignments. We've made some updates to our single sign-on. For those of you who are either using it or have been considering using it, you might be interested in that coming up. And then we've also made some enhancements to our overview page for any of the templates. So you can go in and see very specific information and sort and things like that. So Dina will lead us through that. We have some recent features I just wanted to touch on to make sure everyone's available or aware of. That's dynamic due dates, the daily inbox, and then we also have a template pack of property management templates that we wanted to run through with everyone real quickly. We have a ton of people who use us in the property management space, so we have a bunch of great templates that have been pre-made that are really a great foundation to start your process and then adjust as you need. We'll also, number 3 there, always exciting, we'll cover some of the things that we're currently working on that aren't in production yet, but will be out very soon. That's always exciting. Also, I have a bonus, for anyone or for all of you who have attended and stick around. I have an announcement that I'll make after the coming soon section there. That is sort of a special offer for all of you who have attended. So I would encourage you to stick around and listen for that. And then lastly, as I mentioned, we'll cover questions. Anything that you have, we'd be more than happy to tackle. So just enter those in the Q&A section and we'll get rolling on that. Okay, so without any further ado, I will turn it over to Blake, who's going to take us through role assignments.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Jason, for that really great intro. Welcome, everyone. My name is Blake Bailey here, and I'm the team lead for customer success at Process Street. So first off here, inside of Process Street, many of you guys already know that when you're trying to get things done, you want to make sure that the right people are doing those tasks. And the way that you do that is by using task assignments. So inside of a checklist, you can always go in and assign tasks to individuals to make sure that they're going to go ahead and get notified to let them know to get in and get working on it. If you pair that with due dates like we have right here, you can also ensure that those tasks are getting done at the right time. Now, if you keep running your checklist and the same person every single time is always completing the exact same tasks, your best option is actually to go into the template editor and assign those tasks to that person there, just like I am right here, to ensure that, hey, I'm going to get assigned as soon as the checklist gets run. No one ever has to remember to do that. I'll get those notifications, and it's nice and easy. Now, what happens if you have multiple different people who might need to complete this task, right? So you've got potentially a role. So it's not just me that's going to complete this. Maybe it's the account manager as an example, right? And we have 4 or 5 different people who can serve as an account manager when, in this particular case, we're going to be onboarding a brand new client. So that makes it a little bit more complicated, right? I can't go in here. I can't assign all 5 people where it's going to rotate automatically and all those sorts of things, right? Well, now you can. And that is through the magical thing called role assignments. Now with role assignments, what we're doing is that we are instead assigning a role, big surprise there, to your tasks instead of specific people. So with those roles, what's going to happen is that as soon as we decide, hey, this time we run this checklist, it's this particular person is going to serve as the account manager. All of those tasks assigned to the account manager role will immediately shift over to that individual. Nice and easy. All right, let me go ahead and show you guys how we set that up. The first thing that we need to do, though, is that we need to create a group within our organization that is specific for, in this case, account managers, right? Who are all the people who could potentially serve as account managers within our organization? So to create a group, all we're going to do is open up our organization settings right up here. There we go. And more specifically, I'm actually going to go into the Groups tab right here. And luckily, of course, I did this in advance. I created the account managers group. All you have to do to create a group is just go ahead and click on this button and name it. You can even give it a cool little icon just like that. And as you can see here, we've invited all these people in. All of these individuals are the ones that can serve as account managers inside of our organization. Nice and easy. We can always come in here, add more people if we need to, and remove them if they end up leaving or no longer do that duty. All right, now that we have that group, all we have to do inside of our actual template is pull in the brand new members widget. That's right down here at the bottom of your form fields. We drag that in, stick that right at the top. You can put it wherever you want, but this is a great place because that way we're going to choose it as soon as we get into this checklist. So I'm going to name that account manager. There we go. And right here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to choose that account managers group. Now, the reason why I'm doing that is that, realistically, if we just kept this at all members, what this is going to allow us to do is actually pick from, if it's all members, every single member in our entire organization. But not every single person in our organization is actually someone who can be an account manager. So in that case, we're choosing the account managers group. So that's only the people that we've said in advance, hey, you guys are account managers. We trust you in being able to do this. So all of those people will show up as options when we're actually running our checklist from this drop down right here. Okay, now the last thing that we need to do to set up our role assignments is assign them. So the way that we do that is we're actually going to assign these tasks right here to that new account manager. And the really cool thing about Process Street is that instead of having to go one by one, we can actually use multi-select, another really awesome feature, to select all of these tasks at once. I'm going to hold Shift. Boom, I've selected all of those. If these were out of order, I could hold Command if I'm on a Mac, which I am, or if you're on a PC, you can use Control and do this. So if they're all out of order, you can do it that way too. But again, these are all in order, so I'm going to use Shift, select all of those, click Assign, and instead of assigning a specific user, I'm going to assign a role. This is brand new right here. And as you guys can see right here, there's the Account Manager Members field. Now what's going to happen is that, there we go, all of these are now assigned to the Account Manager role, and that when we go into this checklist, we're going to say, hey, for this particular form field, who's the account manager? And once we make that selection, these 4 assignments are going to shift right over to that brand new person. All right, let's actually see how that works. So I'm going to go ahead and save changes here, and let's run a new checklist. So in order to do that, let's go back to the template, click Run Checklist, and let's actually onboard Apple as an example. Perfect. So right here at the top of our checklist, very first thing that we wanted to put in here, this is now that dropdown. This is the members field, right? So this is automatically pulling from our members list, and more specifically, this one's actually pulling from our members list inside of the account managers group that we created. So all we have to do is click on this dropdown. In this case, let's go ahead and assign those tasks to Rick. So Rick is going to be the account manager for Apple. Boom, there we go. Rick is now assigned to all 4 of those tasks. Obviously, if we wanted to, we could have him be assigned to all of these all at once as well, but this is a nice and easy way to show how this works. Now, this is great when you have, somebody in your organization that is, say, an account manager or some other type of a role that, you sort of know who they might be in advance. They're already a member of your organization in Process Street. Nice and easy. You have that nice little drop down to pick them really quickly, really fully featured, right? Awesome thing. However, what if, maybe in this particular case, we wanted the client to come in and fill out a questionnaire? Or maybe you're a hiring manager. This is an employee onboarding checklist, and you'd like that new employee to come in and fill out some contact questions, emergency details, upload their W-2, whatever it might be, right? Those people, the client or a new employee in that other case, neither of them are going to be in our organization already because they're brand new, right? They're not going to be in here. We didn't invite them in. They're not members yet. So can we not use this? No, of course we can. Role-based assignments is awesome. The way that we're able to do this instead is actually to use an email field rather than the members widget. So let's see how that works. We'll go right back into the template editor. Let's go right up here to the top again. And, if we wanted to pull in an email field, we would just go right here and drag it in. But of course, we're prepared. We already have a client email address form field in here. That's this right here. What that does is that just makes sure that it actually is an email address. So just checking the format of that data to make sure that it actually fits what we want. Now, what's going to happen is that we're able to use this email address, whatever is entered into here, and automatically assign that address to whatever task that we want. In this case, it's this one. So all we're going to do, click Assign. Again, we're going to click a role rather than a specific user. As you can see right here, we have client email field, right? So it's going to pull the email address from that field, no matter what we put in there, and assign that address to this task. All right, now that role is assigned. You can see it's a little bit different. This one's pulling from the email field, which is why it looks like an email. This one's pulling from the members field. Let's save changes, go back to the checklist and see how that one works. All right, so let's just pretend for this particular case, I'm going to use my own email address so that way nobody gets a random email from this broadcast and wonders what's going on. So here we go. Boom, that's my email address for Process Street right there. And you'll see very quickly that boom, there I am, automatically assigned. And see, Process Street knows that I'm already in the organization. So you can even use this field for existing members or guests inside of your organization right now. It'll figure out that, hey, that person's already in here, and it'll pass it right on in and automatically put a profile picture like I've already set right there. But you can also, as we already mentioned, pass in email addresses of, individuals that are not within your organization already, be it maybe a client's email address, a vendor's email address, a new employee's email address, whatever it might be. And the moment that they get assigned automatically, because you just put their email address in there, they will also get automatically invited into the organization as a guest, which means for free. So they're just brought in for free. They can come back in here. You can use the assignments. You can use the due dates. You didn't even have to invite them into the organization yourself. You didn't have to do anything about assigning them here. It automatically happens. They automatically get that notification. And the really awesome thing about this, for you guys that are using Zapier or considering to use Zapier, the tool that Process Street connects with that allows Process Street to connect to over 1,500 different services and integrations, if you're using that, say with your CRM or a database or a Google Sheet or an Airtable or literally any of those things, what you can do is that, say, for example, for new client onboarding, maybe you're going through and you are going to be, onboarding a new client. They're in your CRM, your customer relationship management system. And, at one point they're a lead, you're going through the sales process. At some stage you say, all right, they signed a contract, they're now a customer. And when that happens, that can trigger the creation of a brand new checklist automatically, again, using Zapier. Create the checklist, pull all the data about that customer, all your notes, every single thing, pull that from your CRM directly into Process Street, fill out all of these form fields for you, all that data, automatically assign people to it, and assign the client, as an example here, to this task automatically. So the moment that client becomes an actual client, this checklist runs, everyone gets their notifications, the client is invited to your organization as a guest for free, and they're going to come in here, fill out all the stuff. So you just wake up in the morning, this thing is already done. You have very little you actually have to do, and that's all through automations and role assignments. Now, with this new feature, it isn't just the very basic sort of example that I gave you here. Realistically, this works whenever you have, say, multiple people that fill roles in your organization, whether it's an administrator, a property manager, a hiring manager, client support, engineers, account managers, anything. If you've got multiple people who can fill a particular role, role assignments is for you. So these are some examples here. You've got multiple property management teams, right? So each one's got their own property manager, their own administrators, their own sales support people. You're able to assign each of those roles rather than the individuals, and you can have it rotate nice and easy, even automatically using Zapier to automatically assign them to those tasks without you ever having to remember to do that. You can have that same thing with hiring managers, client support, account management, engineers, and literally billions of other ways to potentially use this. So submit your questions on this, and we're going to go ahead and answer those at the end of this broadcast. Now, one word about this is that if you guys are on the Business Pro or Enterprise plans or on trial versions of either of those plans, you have access to this feature right now. So don't go leaving the broadcast yet. I know you guys want to. Don't do it. I know it's very tempting. Give it a second, wait for us to finish, and then go start using this, start setting your templates up. If you are not on either of those plans, then either upgrade, or if you have not signed up for Process Street yet, go ahead and sign up, get on that free trial of Business Pro, and you could start using it today as well. But we look forward to you guys, your questions on this. All right, that's enough about role assignments. On to Dina to tell us about some of the awesome other new features that have come out with Process Street.
Thanks so much, Blake, for a great demonstration of role assignments. Hi, everyone. My name is Dina, and I'm a Customer Success Manager here at Process Street, and I'm excited to talk to you about the additional features and enhancements we've recently made. So first up, we have single sign-on. So with single sign-on, it's available on our enterprise plans, and we all know about the benefit and ease of using Google to log into multiple platforms. And with single sign-on, we can achieve the same benefit. So you can sign in effortlessly into Process Street, and we've added an additional benefit here. So Now with single sign-on, if a user does not exist in Process Street, you can automatically make them a member through SSO, saving you time adding users into the organization. Of course, there are additional benefits of single sign-on. It boosts productivity, so you don't have to spend additional time logging in. Instead, you get one-click access to begin your checklists quickly. It reduces security risks by not having additional passwords documented. That's always a great benefit as well. And of course, it promotes the use of Process Street because it's easily accessible. So if we navigate back to our organization here, the next enhancement we have is enhancements to our overview page. So if we go back to client onboarding here, so on all plans, you have access to the template overview that we see here. So in the template overview, we're continuously updating and improving this feature as desires around better reporting features have become more pressing for our Process Street customers. And you'll find a couple of new enhancements here. So first, right here, we'll see the ability to search by checklist name. So you asked and we heard you. You can now search by checklist name in the template overview. As all of our organizations are running hundreds of checklists, we want to be able to find and access them fast and quickly. So you can now do that in the overview. So let's say you're a property manager and you need to find a checklist quickly pertaining to a specific tenant. You can search for the tenant's name and their checklists will appear in the overview. A quick tip just for all of our organizations, think of a solid naming convention when you're running your checklist. It will really help you to identify and find exactly what you need that much more quickly. So the next enhancement you'll see here is the ability to sort checklists by several columns, including due date, completed, and status. So one of my favorite ways is to sort by due date. So if I just click on this option here, you'll see I can sort these checklists by due date. So that's the way that I can prioritize my checklist, so I can see what's due soonest first. So of course, one of the most useful ways is sorting by checklist name. What's great about that as well is you can see group of like checklists together. For example, in client onboarding, if we sort by checklist name here, we're able to see, easily view and sort all clients that we are onboarding on behalf of Amazon. You'll see here, if we click on the checklist name, it's going to sort it for us alphabetically. If you're working on a client on behalf of a company, we can work through that company quickly and efficiently. And last but not least, we can now filter the overview and change what we see on the screen. So if we click on this drop down, of course, you'll see all of the fields available to you inside of your template here. And we can now filter all of the fields present and available in our template. So you're able to select and deselect the fields and make a custom selection of what you'd like to see represented on the overview. Of course, the main benefit here is being able to see just the items that are pressing in your overview report. An additional enhancement to this update is that you can now export only what you see. So what that means is that you can create a custom report. So if we select export to CSV, you'll see here I have the option to export all columns or export only visible columns, which would just export what you see. So you can create your customized CSV report of just the items you've selected on the dropdown. Again, with items like, or processes like client onboarding, we're almost always collecting client name, phone number, email, address, and more. So with the custom CSV, we can export just that data and create a detailed spreadsheet of client contact information quickly by selecting those form fields in the dropdown and exporting that data. Of course, as mentioned earlier, you still have the option to export all columns, which will export all checklist data regardless of what's selected. And just a quick tip again, remember your data is always safe and secure inside of Process Street, but it is nice to be able to see it in a different format or pull your quarterly, semi-annual, or annual reports. So if we go back to our slide here, some of our next enhancements you'll see are, so we have dynamic due dates. So you'll see first up is dynamic due dates available on our Business Pro plan here. So with our regular due date option, you can set a due date based X amount of time before the checklist due date, which is set on the right-hand menu of an active checklist, or X amount of time after the checklist start date, and that's available on all plans. So with dynamic due dates, you can set a due date at the template level the same way as regular due dates, but with the addition of due dates that can be set X amount of time after a previous task was checked, or X amount of time before or after a date field found inside of your checklist. So We're really excited about this feature because a lot of the feedback that we heard is due dates work really great, but actually the due date for a specific task is dependent on when another task is completed. So you can now set that at the template level. For example, if you're a coach who needs to send out a program to a new client, but needs to send it out within 3 days of your client completing the initial program, you can set a task for that new program to be due 3 days after the initial program was completed. All of these due dates will, of course, automatically apply to all checklists run off of that template. Next is our enhancement to the notifications tab, of course, available on all plans as well. So notifications is something that we're going to be continuously working and updating. So now you can choose to receive a once-a-day reminder of your overdue and upcoming tasks received daily at 8 a.m. So you can find that in your notification settings in your profile and settings. So here at Process Street, we're always hearing about the ways to notify team members of tasks and keep everyone on track. Well, with the daily inbox email, you will always see what's pressing and upcoming for the following days. It's a great way to keep up accountability for the team, but also see an itemized list right in your email of all action items. Of course, last but not least is our property management pack. So if we go back into Process Street, you'll see you can find our pre-made templates if you select new and pre-made template. You'll see this is the featured category, but if we click on this drop-down, you'll find our property management pack inside of real estate, and here are the property management processes. So of course, Process Street users, many of you are property managers, and we love property managers here. Our team has spent time designing processes specifically for your use case, from tenant move-in to tenant move-out to landlord onboarding and offboarding. We're sure to have something that fits your needs. And we found that there's a similar foundation to all property management processes, and we're sure you'll find something that with a bit of customization will certainly fit all of your property management needs. So that's what I have for our recent enhancements. I'm going to send it over back to Blake to tell us a bit about what's upcoming next.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Dina, for letting us know about those really great new features. So now it's my turn to share with you guys a bit of a sneak peek of what's to come. So a couple things here. First, we've got a huge update coming to our Zapier integration. I know I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Soon, you're going to be able to find and update existing checklists in addition to your already existing ability to create brand new ones automatically. This will open up an insane amount of things you'll be able to do. But I'll leave some of those for a future webinar. So definitely check in with us, attend some of our next webinars coming up, because we're going to be talking about some of that and some really cool ways to use it. Now, the other thing that we've got coming on is a really highly requested feature. Tons of people have looked for this. This is task assignments. So wouldn't you love the ability to control who can see a particular task inside of a checklist, not just controlling down to the template level, or just controlling, where you can see the whole checklist overall, but to be able to control pieces of that individual checklist and say, you're finally going to be able to let your clients or employees work on one task while, preventing them from seeing sensitive information or discussions that are happening in other parts of that very same checklist. All right. So if you'd like to be able to use task permissions once they come out, you're going to want to upgrade to the Business Pro or Enterprise plan, similar to role assignments. But if you, obviously, if you guys are on trials or anything like that, you can start using that immediately, or once it comes out as well. But then the new Zapier update will actually be available for everyone, regardless of your plans. Even if you're on the free plan, you can use that Zapier integration once that comes out as well. So keep those in mind. We're going to be talking about both of those in upcoming webinars. So again, definitely keep tuned to us. Keep your notifications on, and make sure to attend those. And we're going to be going into some more detail on that. All right, so back over to Jason to give you guys some of that special offer you kind of talked about a little bit earlier, and to wrap us up here.
Great. So I promised a special offer, and now it is special offer time. So for those of you who have attended the webinar today, or even if you've watched a recording after the fact, if you are interested in getting access to any of the coming soon features and would like to try them out before their sort of general release, we are happy to give you early access to those features. And to get access, all you have to do is email support@Process.st with the subject line early access, and we will set you up on that. those are production ready features. They're sort of just in the final stages of tinkering for us when we give you access to that, but they're basically at that stage now. And we would be happy to do that if you are interested. So if you like to play with things newly or that are newly out there, or even if that solves a big pain point for you, please let us know and we will hook you up with that. Just real quickly, one thing I wanted to cover that I forgot to mention at the very beginning, we will be sending a recording of this following the conclusion of it. And we generally do that with most of our webinars. So if you ever can attend a webinar, I would encourage you just to register and we'll send you a recording of it after the fact. You can always watch it, at your own time. Okay, so we are going to jump into questions here. I've got both Dina and Blake are going to stick around to help. Just a quick reminder, if you see the Q&A button, if you hit that, you can enter your question there. It can be about anything that we talked about today, specifics. We're happy to show stuff, or anything else related to Process Street. I know we have a lot of newer people on the system or on the webinar right now, and we're happy to answer those questions as well. Blake and Dina are great resources for this sort of stuff. So this is a good opportunity to, sort of get some level of consultation from them. So I would encourage you to do that. All right. So let's hop into the questions. The first question is, if we offboard an employee, will all the tasks he's associated with automatically get unchecked? Blake, you want to take that one?
There we go. Sorry, I was on mute and I was trying to unmute myself. Yes, absolutely. So realistically, the way that Process Street works is that assignments and checklists and templates and all the things that are inside of Process Street, they belong to the organization, not the individual. So what that means is that if somebody leaves, it's actually a great thing. So that's if somebody leaves, anything of that nature, realistically, the checklist still exists. The tasks that they're working on still exist, which means somebody else can come in and work on it. It won't uncheck the task. So say they completed it previously, they went through halfway through a checklist, they completed half those tasks, and then they left. They're not going to get unchecked because those things were still done, right? But the assignment that they had previously is gone. So they're no longer assigned to it because they're no longer part of the organization. But realistically, you're still able to come in there, still work on the rest of the checklist, assign those tasks to somebody else. So you never have to worry about those things getting lost, regardless of any sort of employment changes or anything along those sorts of lines.
Great, thank you. Okay, I've noticed that when I put a new email address, sorry, my screen jumps around when people ask new questions. That's not very helpful. Let's see. So I've noticed that when I put in a new email address in a checklist, like a client email, etc., that the new email starts getting Process Street marketing emails. And I'm really excited about our clients automatically becoming leads for Process Street. So just to clarify, if you create a form field that is an email address, we do not send any emails to those people. That's data that just lives in the checklist and they would never get anything. The only time people would get any emails from us are if they're added as members. And most of those emails that go to those people are things like invitations to webinars or announcement of new features, that sort of stuff. So we do communicate with members because they are people who use the system and probably want some level of notification of what's going on. But I just want to make it totally clear that we do not communicate with anyone that's an email address in a form field. And those are the widget on the right-hand side for email. So if you're collecting like customers' email address or things like that, and it's in that field, we will not reach out to those people. Okay, so how does single sign-on work? Do you have to do something different if you have Google Business, or does it just work?
All right, well, I can grab that one. So realistically, the way that single sign-on works is that, first off, for anyone who's curious about that particular feature, that is on our enterprise plan. So you guys can get on there. Definitely reach out to our team just because we like to work with you to make sure we get that set up in the right way. There's a couple settings on there in terms of deciding on, what it is that you want, essentially how you want your employees to log in to the system. Essentially what it does is it allows people to just log in using your guys' existing single sign-on, right? And what that's going to do is that then you're going to be able to automatically have them get in there, have that nice secure login. And again, you're going to be able to control those settings with those new updates that have come through recently that Dina was talking about. Now, that's a little bit different from the other type of login that you guys may also be thinking of, which is that you can log in using Google, right? So that's technically also a single sign-on as well. It's a little bit different from what we're mentioning. This other single sign-on is kind of more related to Azure or other sorts of things that you may have as an organization otherwise on top of something like Google or anything like that. But anyone can use Google to sign into Process Street and use that as technically a single sign-on as well on any plan, including the free plan. But if you want essentially a bit of a more secure or more fully featured single sign-on where you have greater control, that is Enterprise. And please reach out to support@process.st if you're interested in getting onto the Enterprise plan and using the single sign-on feature in that way.
Great, thanks, Blake. A question about offboarding. If we offboard an employee, will all the tasks he's associated with automatically get unchecked? There's something related to task permissions. Blake, you want to tackle
that? Yeah, so we just did that one.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good. No worries. I know the questions are coming. By the way, guys, thank you so much for all the questions.
Yeah.
They're coming in quick, and we love that. So that's good.
Good time. Sorry, everybody. Not a question, but a comment. I'm a brand new Process Street user and have set up everything. It seems daunting. I love all these features, just need a good resource on how to set it all up. Okay, so I'll tackle this one first, and Blake and Dina, feel free to chime in if you want to. So the first thing I would say is if you go to the Help Center and there's a help button in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, go to the Help Center and go to where we have all of our support documentation, our resources in there. And there is a getting started document that's really fantastic that leads you through sort of step-by-step everything you need to do. It gives you the full rundown of everything that you need to do to launch your program. So I think you may just bite off little chunks of that as you go through the process and really focus on things like setting up your template and spend some time doing that stuff. But that is really a great place to get started. And that kind of outlines the key features that you need to do to get your template to a place where you can release it to your users or start using it yourself. The other thing I will say that is sort of a best practice that we see working well at a lot of people we talk to is plan on iteration with your template. Just start with something. Get every task that you think your process has in there, and then kind of run through it in sort of a mock fashion to make sure you have all those tasks in place, and then just update it. Continue to update that and work on it. And what you'll find is before too long, you have a pretty well fleshed out process that is very close to exactly what you do, and you can make further adjustments if you need to. So I would start there. And the other thing is feel free to reach out to us if you need any pointers. We're happy to help with that and answer as much as we can, but that's a good place to start. Blake, Dina, do you have anything to throw in there?
Yeah, Jason, just to add on to that too. So when you do sign up for a paid plan of Process Street, you are offered a complimentary 30-minute onboarding call with one of us here on the customer success team. So at that point too, we can kind of take you through the platform even deeper, show you additional features and benefits, and show you how to streamline your processes. So you won't be alone when you join us here at Process Street. We'll be with you along the way throughout your journey.
Great. Cool. So next question. Will setting a dynamic due date auto-run that checklist?
Great. I can take that one, Jason. I see that came in from Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Your name looks really familiar to me. I think we've probably worked together in the past. But so with dynamic due dates, actually, it will just automatically assign the due dates to those tasks, but it will not auto run the checklist. So if you needed a checklist automatically run, what you would want to do is either set it up natively in a scheduler inside of Process Street or have it trigger off of another application using a Zapier automation or integration. So it just presets the due dates for you when the checklist is run, but does not auto run the checklist for you. That's something that you would have to set separately inside of Process Street natively in the scheduler or via an automation.
Great. Next question. Do you plan to integrate with Integromat in addition to Zapier? I will take that one. So one point that I probably should have highlighted in the very beginning, for those of you who have been around Process Street for a while, you probably have realized that a lot of the things that you've either requested or thought that we should add to the system start showing up in our new features and our releases. That's because customer feedback drives our roadmap, in a very big way. So I would encourage you to submit any feedback you have about things that you think could be better. And I will caution you to just let you know that, they're not necessarily always features that we can just implement right away. So there may be a little wait before things get in place. But we do weigh our options, our feature requests. We get a lot of feature requests, but we do weigh those based on the amount of requests that we get from customers. So we're definitely interested in hearing what you would like us to improve and how we can improve things, and feel free to submit those. The reason I mentioned that in regards to this question is because at this time, there are not immediate plans. So it's not like in production to integrate with Integromat. We will note that as a feature request and mark that down. One thing that is really fantastic if you guys can do when you submit a feature request is kind of tell us how that helps you. In this particular instance, it would be fascinating to know kind of why that's different than Zapier, or like why that's more of an impact for you than Zapier. But we will note that down and add that to our feature request list. And so short answer is we're not planning on doing that in the short term, but it is open for consideration, of course, as with any feature request that comes in. Okay, next question is, what is the ETA on task permissions? So task permissions, as I mentioned, is in a beta state right now. So if you are interested in getting access to it, you can get access to it now. General release is a couple of months, most likely away. Ultimately, we're not much more specific than that when it comes to releasing a new feature. It's more general. Whole processes that we go through to make sure that the features are, completely bug free and are ready to roll for production and all that. And so ultimately some of that can throw off schedules. So we hesitate to give exact dates. But like I said, that is in beta release now. So if you would like to gain access to it, if you just email us and let us know you would like that access, then we would be happy to give you access. All right, next. What are the features that are in development that we can get early access to? Blake, you want to tackle that one?
Absolutely. Yeah. So realistically, the way that essentially getting onto our beta program works is that any features that are soon to be released publicly will end up on beta. So what that means is that, if they're still in development, if they're realistically still in the engineering phase, that sort of a thing, being designed, being engineered, you're not going to get access to those because they likely have bugs and those sorts of things, or pretty serious bugs, of course, that we would like to work out and make sure that they, work before we go putting it onto your organization and ruining your things. So realistically, right now, some of those things that you guys can get access to, for one, would be those task permissions would probably be the biggest one that is not currently live yet, but would be on the beta. So if you guys want access to task permissions, being able to say, only, you coming into this checklist, you can work on this one task and see this one task, but you can't see the other ones. That's great for maybe for an HR checklist where you're, requesting leave and the hiring man, not the hiring manager, but the manager has to discuss something, with, the rest of the team or something like that regarding that request. And you don't want the actual person who submitted that request to see it. That's a good example. That's task permissions. That's something that's on beta right now that if you want to get access to that, go ahead and reach out using, let me go back here so you guys can see it again. Again, just as a reminder, this is how you guys get access to that. Email support@process.st with the subject line early access for us to give you the instructions on how to set that up. Now, in the future, what that will mean is other sorts of features, realistically, as they become available. I'm not exactly sure which one the next one will be available on there yet. But as you guys are going through, as soon as it gets available onto the beta, you guys get access to it through that program. And you can always ask, we can kind of let you know what those might be. Okay, so I have another question here, just reading through a lot of these. So we have a question here that mentioned, So someone asks pretty much every single time that you go to run a checklist, do you have to sign in? So realistically, the way that it works inside of Process Street is that it keeps you signed in. So you don't have to go signing back in every single time because yes, that would be a big hassle. Process Street keeps you logged in, similar to Facebook, similar to Gmail, anything else. Essentially, it uses cookies to ensure that you are still logged in. You don't have to go doing that every time. I think the logout period is something like 10 to maybe 30 days. I forget, where it will automatically log you out as a security protocol. And then you would have to log back in. So on a very rare occasion, you might need to log in. But almost always you're going to be able to just click on a what's called a run link as an example. That's a really great way to grab a link from a particular template that you'd like to, a process that you'd like to run a checklist off of quickly. A lot of people will grab a run link. Let me actually show that to you guys really quickly because that's a cool little feature here that we have that a lot of people don't know about. So if you go to any template, say for example client onboarding, and we wanted to get a run link, what we do is we click share template, click run link just like this. And if we copy this link, what I tell people to do is just go ahead and bookmark this. If it's a process you run a lot and you don't know, when it is that you're going to need it, you need to just be able to fire it off really quickly. You just grab this link and you bookmark it. And then that way you always have a little button you can just click on to just immediately take you directly into Process Street without having to log in. And take you directly into a brand new blank checklist that you can just start working on within about 5 seconds from the thought of you thinking that you needed to run it. And then maybe you needed to pass some information into there from like your CRM or another service. You can actually do that. So something like Salesforce, Close, etc. You can use variables here to automatically pass data into that checklist, fill out the form fields, name it a particular way, anything like that. And remember, we were talking about this before, with those role assignments, you could pass an email address into that field and then assign somebody to a task automatically, just like that. Maybe an account manager, something like that. Again, that is a checklist run link. And yes, you do not need to sign in every single time that you do this. Maybe once every 100 times or something like that. It might catch you once, but you don't have to worry about it like that.
Great. So I also see a question from Keela. Thank you, Keela, for joining us today. So is there a drag and drop feature for the templates available so that we don't have to go through the super long list to move it, but rather drag it to where we want it? Okay, great. So Keela, I'm pretty sure that you're speaking of copying content from the template and moving different tasks to other templates. So right now, that is a current feature request, being able to combine templates or move tasks between templates. It's definitely something that we've heard. It's not currently being worked on, but it doesn't mean it's not a possibility for the future. So we will be sure to mark and track that for you for our product team as well.
So one thing, just in case what you're asking there is if you're looking for the ability to put content where you want it within the same template. So what Dean is mentioning is fully true in terms of dragging and dropping between different templates. But if you're asking for being able to drag and drop while you're building your template, say for example here, my client onboarding template, if I wanted to add in a new file, for example, instead of having to worry about where it goes, I can drag and drop that wherever I want, just like that. And there we go. It's going to go exactly where I want it to go. Same thing for forms, same thing for any type of content. And you can drag these tasks up and down nice and easy like that as well. And that way you have full customizability. You don't have to go worrying about things getting dropped all the way to the bottom and then moving them up. So nice and easy that way. But again, as Dina mentioned, if you have multiple templates, you're not able to drag and drop them between them yet. But that is a feature request, as she mentioned. Let's see here. So moving forward here. So another question is, with the implementation of roles, is there a way to show the checklist where I have been assigned a task through roles in the overview tab, or am I still limited to filtering the checklists that appear based on the assignment of the checklist? So in the overview tab, you still would be filtering it based off of the assignment to the overall checklist. However, there is a way better place for you to go for that information, and it's not the overview tab. Let me go out of here for a second, go ahead and save these changes, and let me show you where that is. So instead of going to overview, which of course in here, Dina showed it earlier, you can see here, you can go ahead, you can filter it by who's assigned to the overall checklist, no problem, that's great and all. But really, overview is more or less for getting information, right? You want a report of what's happening, what's been getting done, what has been done, who's working on different things. Essentially, you just want a status update, right? But if you need to get in, you want to know the things that you are assigned to, specifically the tasks that you're assigned to and what you need to get done. Where you need to go is inbox. That's right up here. So what I recommend is that you don't even go to process.st anymore. Stop going there. That sounds like I'm telling you not to use Process Street anymore. I'm not. Go to this link right here. Bookmark this, right? You're going to have a bunch of bookmarks because of me. Use this right here. Bookmark app.process.st/inbox. It'll save you so much time because, again, Process Street keeps you logged in. So if you go to this bookmark, it'll take you directly here. And what this does is that it compiles every single assigned task and checklist from across the entire organization into one place, and it prioritizes them by the due date. So things that you are assigned to and are super overdue, like for example, November 25th, those are going to be way up here at the top. Things that are less overdue down at the bottom, like May 11th. And again, this is checklists. These are tasks, everything from your entire organization in one place, automatically organized. You can get in here. You can get things done. You can actually do everything that you would do and more that you would do inside of an actual checklist. You can do it right here inside of Inbox, get things done, get things moving. Definitely use this for what it is that you're looking to do there. Use Overview for information. Use Inbox for getting things done.
Great. So another question we have is, can I use this for a CRM, HRM, project workflow management, task delegation? I don't have a lot of knowledge about creating systems. How many other members can work under if purchase one? Can we do a monthly payment? So a couple different answers to your question here. So the way Process Street works best is in conjunction with the CRM, for example, Salesforce or Close.io. That way, if you need a process for one of your clients that's managed in your CRM, you can then run that process inside of Process Street. Of course, perfect for project workflow and management and task delegation. You can collaborate with your team members and pre-assign them to different tasks at the template level. That way, the entire team can work collaboratively on a process that could potentially be triggered by an action inside of your CRM. Of course, you can do a monthly payment. We do have all of our plans on monthly and on yearly, so please feel free to check them out on our pricing page.
Yeah, so I have a question here from Chris. So using that new roles feature, what if a role changes mid-checklist? For example, if a different account manager is assigned to a checklist after it has been started, can we just update the field at the top of the checklist and the remaining steps will now be assigned to the new account manager? Yes, they will. So with the role assignments, the way that it works is that once you choose, you choose that one account manager, but then halfway through it changes, you can go back into that checklist and go ahead and assign it to somebody else. And since it's assigned to a role and not an individual, what it's going to do is that it'll automatically switch those over to the appropriate person automatically. So that's a great way to handle those task assignments and essentially being able to change them out really quickly without having to go one by one to have to get it done. So role assignments is going to make that a lot easier, especially if you have processes that are really long and you've got a lot of assignments going on.
Awesome. Another question here for due dates. Do you have to do that manually each time, or can you set it as 3 days after the list is ran, etc.? So exactly, when you set them at the template level, it is preset each time that you run a checklist, and there is an option to do it X amount of time after the checklist has been ran. So 3 days after checklist start date or any amount of time is available as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So another question here is, so Laurel, thank you, Laurel, asked, said that you noticed in the demo checklist that there were related checklists linked at the bottom of the list. Is it possible to do this for your own lists? For example, employee onboarding with a reading checklist linked at the end. Absolutely. So you have a bunch of options on that. Realistically, the way that you would do it, let me think here. I think I've actually got one. There we go. So right here. What you do is you just pull in the text content item because it's a link, but that link is made of text, right? So what you're doing here is that you have a couple different ways you could do this. One, if you just want it for reading material, you can grab the link to the template, right? Just the template because you're just going to go read it, and you can put the link to that directly here, just like that. However, maybe you'd like somebody to come in here and run a checklist, right? You want somebody to okay, now you're done with this. Now you need to run maybe it's something special that you need to be doing for this client that you realistically just want to be able to run a quick checklist for, maybe send something over to accounting, whatever it might be. You can use that checklist run link that I showed you earlier. So you can actually put that in here instead of the template link. And what that'll allow people to do is actually click the link directly from here and immediately go straight into that next checklist. And because I showed you guys those variables, right, those variables as a part of that link that you could potentially use, you can actually use those same variables match them up with the variables from this checklist, right? So what that's going to do is it'll push your data from one checklist automatically to the other and just take you directly into that next one, have it filled out automatically with that same data. You don't have to go typing things twice. And again, that's the exact same way you're going to be doing it, regardless of whether you're using the template link or the checklist run link, just by pulling in that text item and then putting that link in there, and it'll all work just the same. So that's how you do it.
Great. Next question we have is from Andrew. Andrew, thank you for joining us today. So can guests see an entire checklist, or can we limit their visibility to only the steps they are assigned to? Great question. So Blake actually touched on what's coming up next, which is a feature called task permissions. And with task permissions, you will be able to limit the visibility that your guests and members see on certain tasks inside of a checklist. Not available yet. We do have a couple of more weeks. I think Jason mentioned maybe it's potentially about 6 weeks, but at that point, you will be able to limit the visibility for your guests. Currently, if a guest is assigned to a task inside of a checklist, they can see all of the tasks inside of that checklist, but that will soon be changing here at Process Street. We're really excited about that feature.
Awesome. Yeah. So Laurel here asked, you'd like to be able to set up an auto task reminder to have employee reviews every 6 months. What's the best way to do that? So the best way to do that in Process Street is to make use of the scheduled checklist feature. It's a really, really awesome feature that's built into Process Street. So the way that you do that is if you've got any process that you want to do over and over again. You mentioned there an employee review, but let's just pretend for this case that maybe you want to write a blog article every month. Obviously, it's just whatever sort of process you have that happens on a recurring basis, accounting, financial, employee, marketing, whatever it might be. You've got a recurring process that happens on a routine basis, right? Instead of having to remember to come in here and then click run checklist and do all that sort of a thing, what you can do is you can use the schedule checklist feature. So the way that you do that is you just click right here, click more, and then right here, schedule checklist. Let's go ahead and schedule the blog pre-publish procedure for publishing a new blog article. This takes you directly into here. And all you have to do is just build this out. You can assign certain people to it. You essentially just, in the case where you're mentioning for an employee review, you would just do this for the employee review process. And you would name this the employee's name. So you'd say, if it's Frank, Frank's employee review, and you can say for checklist date, right? So it's going to have the date in there automatically. You repeat that. Maybe if you're going to do it every 6 months, you would do monthly every 6 months. There we go. And then all you have to do is set the first time you want that to run. This will automatically then run 6 months. Every 6 months after that, automatically you can have it get those automatic notifications with those assignments. You can have it automatically due after a certain amount of time, so you ensure that it actually gets done. And then you just schedule it and you forget it, and then that's it. It'll always run that exact same interval just the way that you need it to, and that is the best way to set that up.
Awesome. Next question is from Paul. Paul, thank you so much for your questions. I see you in our chat quite a bit, so you're definitely a power user of Process Street. So I would love if we could change the color of the boxes. That way, if we have property that is on hold, we can change it to yellow. One that's going fine can stay blue, and one that is late because someone in the past due date would need to turn red. When the tasks are not completed on time, they need to turn red. So Paul, it's really interesting that you bring that up because it is a feature request that we've heard a couple of different times, being able to change the colors of the checklist and active checklists that are represented. It is a current feature request, and we'll be more than happy, of course, to mark and track it for you. Again, since it's something that we're hearing, and we'll be sure to pass that along to the product team.
Awesome. Let me see here. All right. So, for example, I've got a question here from Edgar. Can we edit the form fields to show something other than something will be typed here? For example, for a date, it could be month, day, year. So realistically, the way that you're going to be doing that, what you're mentioning there, is actually back inside of the template editor. Let's go back in there for a second. So what you're mentioning is, this little area. Let me go down to one where it actually shows it. Right here. Something will be typed here. So realistically, that won't actually show up when you're actually running a checklist. This will just be blank, right? So this isn't like a placeholder or anything like that. This is realistically just to tell you that, when you actually run a checklist, that something will be typed here. The way that what you're looking to do in regards to telling people what the format should be, what should go here, that's by using this right here. This is the label, right? This is where you're saying, in this particular case, a client name should go here. Obviously, there's no real format for this. If it's something like an email address or a web address, then you can use the email or web address form fields to make sure that they're the right format. And then for your case there, you're mentioning a date. You actually are going to want to use the date form field. That's this one right here. And you would just say, what the date should be, rather, what this particular piece of data is. So maybe it's a meeting date, maybe it's their onboarding date, maybe it's their sign-on date, whatever it is. And what this does is that you don't even have to worry about the format, because what's going to happen is that as soon as you run this checklist, when you click this button, it's going to pop out essentially a calendar that looks pretty similar to, not this one. But anyways, what it does is that it's going to look pretty similar to what that used to look like, which is just a calendar where you can actually see the actual dates. You can actually set a specific time. You don't have to worry about the format at all because Process Street takes care of that for you. You just need to let somebody know, hey, this is the meeting date or whatever other piece of information that is. And that's where you use this label here. You don't ever have to worry about this. That's really just for you as the template editor to know that, hey, something's going to be written there. Don't even worry about this.
Awesome. Another question from Taylor. So from an employee onboarding training perspective, can you have a task be dependent on manager approval? For example, we don't want the employee to continue the next step in training until the hiring manager has reviewed their work. Okay, great question, Taylor. So approvals is definitely something that the product team has been discussing. Hopefully it's something that we'll see in the future here at Process Street. Right now, what we would do is a workaround with conditional logic, where with conditional logic, we would add a step that says, was the task approved? If yes, then have the next task show. If no, then maybe have additional steps to lead us towards that approval. So there's some workarounds we can implement in Process Street, but currently there is not an approval feature that we have readily available.
So I've got a question here from Taylor, which is, from employee onboarding training perspective, can you have a task dependent on a manager approval?
Oh, Blake, we just did that one.
My brain was like, I'm pretty sure you did just do that one. See, me and Jason, man, terrible. Right. We're giving you guys some extra entertainment today. Okay, so it's like I'm reading and listening, and my brain can't handle two things at once, apparently. So I've got a question here, which is, can you hire Process Street for ad hoc projects? So we do that in limited amounts. Realistically, here in customer success, our primary concern is to make sure that we're doing things that serve everybody, all of the customers overall, so not just one specifically. We were trying to give you guys as much of a tailored and great experience yourselves, right? So we do that through onboarding, we do that through calls, we do that through support, everything that we can do to provide you guys with a personalized, hand-holding, free, included with your package, experience. Now, if you need more than that, you need a greater amount of consultative work, you need something to be built, anything along those lines, we do that in limited amounts. Again, we do it based on our availability to be able to provide that in a good way, right? Depending on your need, that sort of a thing. We can also refer you out to some partners that we work with that may be able to help you guys a little bit better, provide you a little bit more, depending on your guys' needs, like I mentioned. But if you have any questions regarding that, if you're looking for consultative work, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to have this conversation with you guys just to see what we can do, what we can't do. And, we'll be honest with you, let you know what we can do. And we always try to provide all of that service as much as we can for free as a part of your paid plan. So that's our first go-to. We always try to do that first. But beyond that, we try to make sure we set you up in the best way possible. So again, reach out to our support at process.st, or using the help button in the app and contacting support through there. Either way, feel free to reach out. We're happy to talk to you guys one-on-one about that.
Great. So another question from Latoya. I use Asana and ClickUp and have access to Process Street and Talify. So many different apps. Does Process Street replace them all or works best in tandem? So Latoya, what I've seen from working with other customers is that Asana and Process Street actually work great in conjunction with one another. So Asana is more of managing your one-off tasks, and you can even have a one-off task that then runs a process inside of Process Street to complete that particular task inside of Asana. Alternatively, too, with some automations and kind of some setup through Zapier, once a process is completed in Process Street, or once a task is checked, you can then create an additional task inside of Asana. So I would say, of course, Process Street will give you the list of steps to complete a certain item in Asana, and I've seen it work really beautifully together with a lot of our customers.
Yeah, and I should mention, so ClickUp and Talify are other services that are out there. I think they do some really awesome stuff as well. But I'd actually wager with those ones specifically, realistically, I would say Process Street does replace those, just because they do some similar functions, but I actually think Process Street does a lot of them a lot better. Obviously, go ahead out there, test them out yourself, see what you think. But I do recommend that you use Process Street for those sorts of functions. And then, yeah, as Dina mentioned, Asana does do a lot more, does some sort of one-off things that Process Street might not do, which is why a lot of people will use them in tandem potentially. But again, I'd say for the other services, you may just want to use Process Street instead. And then here we go. I also have a question here regarding the affiliate program. So Process Street does have an affiliate program. So if you go to process.st/partners, in fact, let's go ahead and do that, process.st/partners, just like that. What that's going to do is it'll take you right to this page where you can sign up to be a Process Street affiliate. It's free. You can just go ahead and join. I highly recommend this because if you love Process Street and you've got friends that you think might want to sign up, you can make some money off of them. It's always fun to make money off of friends, right? So what you can do here is that you just join, you get a link, really, really easy. All you have to do is you just give that link to somebody. When they follow that link, it just takes them directly into Process Street to sign up the same way it would otherwise, except if they end up signing up and they upgrade, you get 20% of their commission for the first year. That's huge, especially if you got a friend that's got a big old company, right? So get them in there, get that money, go to Fiji on that vacation, and start getting paid through Process Street.
We will call it a day, and we will talk to everyone soon. Thanks a lot.